Wait. Okay. So, it is our Monday. And I leave for vacation in a few days. So what will usually happen is I'll have another canine handler come over to the house and watch Obi. So, for about a week, I'm not going to be around. But I'll probably still post pictures that I have of Obi. And maybe the guys will send me some videos of him too. I doubt they'll share an apple with him like this though.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I don't get how so many of us are still so lost. I do understand they did a really good job of beating white supremacy into us. But still, we find it so easy to forgive and cape for everybody but us. Even when it's a blatant attack on us, we still go out of our way to condemn ourselves just to protect other groups. Meanwhile, no other groups would spit on us if we were on fire. We are on fire, and all they do is pour gasoline on it. And we already understand that there's no other way out of it without unity. Us as a group being on code is the Black Messiah. But it's like they convinced us to be scared of us taking control over our own communities, building our own institutions, educating our own children, creating our own police to protect ourselves from inside the community and outside the community. It's like they've convinced us that we won't be able to do it good enough. But really, we've never had a choice. The only difference in today is we have the illusion of inclusion. But in reality, we're still in the same exact position we were in 1965. In LA, the Watts Riot of 1965 started after two black teenagers were pulled over by a white cop. Two brothers, Marquette and Ronald Frye, were just on their way to go pick up some girls to go out on a date. And then they were pulled over by a cop, Lee Minikus, allegedly for reckless driving. Now, while the cop questioned his brother Marquette Frye and started giving him a sobriety test, black people that lived in the neighborhood started coming outside to make sure everything was all right. Because back then they were dealing with the same police brutality, they were just more on code to protect each other. The illusion of inclusion doesn't affect them as much as it affects us today. But then after the cop said he failed the sobriety test, he ended up arresting the brother and then radioed to have their car towed. Now the brother Ronald Frye ended up running home to get their mother, Rena Price. And when they got on the scene, she started getting on them about drinking and driving. And even though she was getting on her son, at some point the police ended up pushing her. And that's when everything started escalating. The cop ended up hitting his brother Marquette Frye, and they ended up getting into a little scuffle. And then the brother Ronald Frye jumped in to try to protect his mom. But then more cops came in and started hitting him with batons. And then one of the cops that showed out pulled out a shotgun. So then the police ended up arresting the two brothers and their mom, Rena Price. And then they forced her into the cop car. So as the crowd watched the whole thing go down, the people started getting mad. Then they started yelling. And then they started throwing rocks and bottles and anything they could find at the police. So then the police started attacking every black person, man, woman, or child in the area. They even ended up kicking one black woman who was pregnant. So as the word started to spread about what was happening, more people started coming. And they started throwing rocks, bottles, chunks of concrete, anything they could find at the police, cars that were passing by with white people, or anybody who didn't look familiar to their neighborhood. They were so fed up, they was just pulling random white people out of cars and beating them up. And it lasted throughout the whole night. So then the next day, white officials tried to get Negro leaders, like all the local black preachers and politicians, to try to call for peace and end the uprising. But even by 1965, they were rejected because the people were tired and started to criticize the nonviolent movement. They understood they had no other choice to get justice. Now, a lot of people tried to tell the white officials they needed to remove the police presence from the black neighborhood. But they said, no, we're going to do it how we want to do it. And they started talking about all that law and order stuff. The police chief, William Parker, said they needed a military response, calling for assistance from the National Guard. And the governor, Pat Brown, said the police were confronting guerrilla warfare with gangsters. And the white community, already being on code, started going to gun stores, buying up all the guns and ammunition, because at the end of the day, they understand, and they're going to be prepared for when the time comes. One of the National Guardsmen said the rioting had got so bad that the streets of Watts resembled a war zone. And all through the night, the black community continued to fight with the police. They were looting and setting buildings on fire and cars. Then they stopped firefighters from being able to put out fires. Some people were throwing Molotov cocktails, and the police estimated about 3,000 people were in the streets rioting. By 7 o'clock that night, it was already reported one person had been killed, and then they ordered a curfew that everybody had to be off the streets by 8 o'clock. By the third day, the rioting had spread throughout 50 miles of LA. And by nighttime, it was about 16,000 police and National Guards mobilized and patrolling the streets. They were setting up blockades and warning signs, threatening to use deadly force on any black person that comes past. One sign said, turn left or get shot. So in response, the black residents went to full-scale war with the police. They started throwing bricks and pieces of the sidewalk at the police, smashing cars, stopping white people and pulling them out their cars, beating them up. And then they stopped the fire department from being able to use water hoses on them. And all the stores and buildings they were targeting was mostly white-owned. They were trying to only go after the white businesses in their neighborhood, especially the white-owned businesses that paid them low wages but charged them high prices. The police chief, William Parker, called them monkeys in a zoo. And he tried to imply that it was the black Muslims, the NOI, that had infiltrated and started the riot in the first place. On one of the last days of the riot, the police and National Guard surrounded the Nation of Islam mosque in the black neighborhood and then started shooting it up. The police said they saw several heavily armed Negroes enter the building, and then they fired on the police. Every window in the building was shot out, and then they charged into the temple and arrested everybody in there. At least 35 people were arrested. The police set up at the building next door and then threw tear gas in the sewers trying to stop anybody from escaping. And then somehow 2 fires broke out and destroyed the mosque completely. And the black Muslims accused the police as using the riot as an excuse to destroy their place of worship. And then after they burnt their mosque down, they dropped the charges on everybody they arrested. But by the time the riot was over after 6 days, between 31,000 and 35,000 people participated. It was reported that over 1,000 people were injured, over 3,400 people arrested, and $40 million in property damage. By the end, 34 people, mostly black people, were reported killed. And 23 other 34 people were shot and killed by the police or the National Guard. And 26 of those deaths were deemed justifiable. But back in 1965, the people didn't suffer from the illusion of inclusion. They understood where they fit in. And they understood what they had to do to get what they wanted. But still, over 50 years later, we're still going through the same exact thing. In Florida, a brother, Jamee Johnson, was shot and killed by Jacksonville police. Now let's find out how this brother ended up getting killed by the police.
A family wants answers after their loved one was killed in an officer-involved shooting. That shooting happening Saturday in Talleyrand. Investigators say an officer shot 22-year-old Jamee Johnson 4 times after they say that he pushed an officer following a traffic stop. Johnson died at the hospital, and Johnson's family has hired a civil rights attorney. News for Jackson reporter Corley Peel joins us live to show us what the family and that attorney want to happen now. Corley?
The family says there's still a lot of unanswered questions about what happened to Jamee Johnson. The family and their attorney met here at the state attorney's office this afternoon. At this time, they don't believe that illegal use of force was used, but the attorney says that he's doing his own investigation and is hoping for transparency. The family of 22-year-old Jamee Johnson and their attorney Lee Minikus spoke on the steps of the state attorney's office Thursday afternoon. Police say Johnson died from an officer-involved shooting on Saturday. His father, Harvey Johnson, says his son attended Florida A&M University and the family had plans to meet the next day.
We were supposed to get together Sunday in Gainesville. Me, Jamie, his sisters, my wife, and I had to take family portraits for Christmas.
JSO says the deadly shooting happened after a traffic stop near Buckman and 21st Streets.
And that's what the state attorney said. The only information he had was a seatbelt violation. That's all we know.
Investigators say officers learned Johnson had a gun during the traffic stop. As the officer escorted him to the police car, detectives say Johnson pushed Officer Josue Garriga. The two struggled, and Johnson jumped back in his car, according to police. As Officer Garriga tried to stop Johnson from reaching for his handgun, police say Johnson hit the accelerator, with Officer Garriga's body hanging out of the car. The officer then fired 4 shots, ultimately killing Johnson, according to police. Police released this photo after they say a gun and extended magazine was found in the car. Police say Officer Garriga was wearing a body camera. Merritt fears the entire shooting wasn't recorded.
From the description that was provided to us, it seems that the shooting officer's camera became dislodged during the course of the incident.
Is that what the state attorney's office told you?
Yes.
The family's attorney says they have not seen any of the body camera video. They say the state attorney's office told them that they won't be releasing that at this time because they don't want to jeopardize the evidence. The family's attorney is asking for any witnesses to come forward, and records show that Johnson does not have a criminal history. Reporting live, Corley Peel, Channel 4, the local station.
Corley, do we know if that gun belonged to Jamee Johnson?
Well, the family's attorney says that the gun was legally purchased, but he wasn't sure if the gun was registered to Johnson.
Now, this brother Jamee Johnson, who was a senior at Florida A&M, about to graduate, was pulled over, the police said, for a seatbelt violation. Now, the cop, Josue Garriga, claimed that he saw a gun. Now, this brother didn't have a record, and you can't have a gun in Florida. Florida is a stand-your-ground state. And this brother Jamee Johnson gun was completely legal. But of course, since the Second Amendment isn't meant to apply to us, somehow they started walking him back to their cop car. Now, during the whole traffic stop, this brother was complying. He gave him his ID. He got out of the car when they told him to. He told them about the gun like he was supposed to. Then all of a sudden, they said this brother started fighting as he was walking back to the car. But this brother didn't have a record, and the seatbelt violation is nothing but a ticket. So I don't even understand why he would run in the first place. But they said this brother started fighting back and then ran back to his car. And they claimed they thought he was going for a gun. So then the cop, Josue Garriga, said he tried to stop him. And as he was trying to pull him, he said this brother was going for his gun. And then this brother was pulling off. And the cop said he was hanging off the car. So then as the car stopped, the cop said he shot this brother 4 times. Now keep in mind, the other cop on the scene never shot their gun 1 time. And even though both of these cops had on body cameras, they denied this brother's family a chance to even see the body camera footage.
Family is still looking for answers in the death of their 22-year-old son. The family told First Coast News Jamee Johnson was in town with his cousins over the weekend and expected to be taking Christmas portraits with the family on Sunday. Johnson was shot and killed following a traffic stop Saturday in the 3000 block of Buckman Street. The family held a press conference this afternoon. And On Your Side's Nick Perot was there and joins us now with the latest.
Well, Jeannie, good evening. Civil rights attorney Lee Minikus flew into Jacksonville to represent the family because he said the circumstances of this case did not sit well with him.
At this point, we are still unclear about what exactly happened. I got on a plane and came to Jacksonville, Florida.
Today, Lee Minikus told media the state attorney's office told him Johnson was initially pulled over Saturday for a seatbelt violation,
while Officer Garriga was trying to gain control of him.
During a Saturday evening press conference, Chief of Investigations T.K. Waters told reporters Johnson pushed one of the officers while the two were walking back to their patrol car. Johnson then went back toward his car where a handgun was inside. Waters says a struggle followed between Johnson and Officer Josue Garriga. Soon after, Garriga fatally shot Johnson 4 times. The other officer did not fire, according to police. Both officers involved were wearing body cameras. However, it is unclear whether any video of the shooting itself was recorded.
It seems that the shooting officer's camera became dislodged during the course based on our conversation. And so those witnesses now become critically important.
Merritt says there is no dash camera footage available, and the state attorney's office added releasing the video that is available would not be released as it's an ongoing investigation and could jeopardize that investigation. Merritt is hoping this visit today will spark an independent investigation by the state attorney's office. His office is calling for an independent autopsy and will be bringing an expert in to recreate the scene. It's important to note there has not been a formal suit filed on behalf of Lee Minikus.
Now, these cops said this brother was complying until he pushed one of the cops, which would be on video even if the camera fell off, but they still won't release it. They said it'll compromise the investigation because people might actually see them committing murder. But when it comes to the cases where releasing the video helps them, they don't worry about compromising the investigation then. And now, of course, both of these cops are going to get their paid vacation while the police investigate themselves.
Tonight, the family of a 22-year-old man shot to death Saturday in a police-involved shooting says they want to know the truth. Jamee Johnson was fatally shot by JSO officer Josue Garriga in Talleyrand during a traffic stop. His family has retained civil rights lawyer Lee Minikus of Philadelphia because they say they want to know what happened that day. He spoke with News4Jax.
After speaking with Mr. Johnson's family, what they want more than anything is a thorough investigation.
Civil rights attorney Lee Minikus told News4Jax he and the family of 22-year-old Jamee Johnson believe JSO has video evidence that will provide more clarity as to what happened when Johnson was gunned down during a traffic stop, and they want access to that.
We believe that we can gather enough evidence to get a pretty good idea of what happened that night and to do a constitutional review.
That review, he says, to see if the use of force in this case met with the standards of the Fourth Amendment for reasonableness. JSO says when officers spoke with Johnson, they learned he had a gun in the car. They say officers asked Johnson to step out of the vehicle, and he initially complied. But as Johnson walked back to the officer's patrol car, police say he pushed Officer Garriga, and the two struggled before Johnson got back in his car and hit the gas. JSO says Johnson was reaching for the gun while Garriga was trying to gain control of him while hanging onto the car. He fired 4 shots, killing Johnson. Merritt told News4Jax what witnesses saw could be the basis for a potential wrongful death lawsuit.
There are witness statements. We've heard from at least 2 witnesses. When I say heard from, 2 witnesses have reached out to my office, has reached out to the family informally, and said that their version of events differs from the Sheriff's Department.
Merritt says Johnson was a legal gun owner who had no felony convictions. The family has taken possession of Johnson's body, and Merritt says there will be an independent autopsy. He intends to hire various experts as part of his investigation and intends to ask JSO for body cam footage of the incident. It's still not known why police pulled over Johnson.
Now, there are witnesses that have completely different stories from the cops, but if you're a black man in America, it's justified if you're anywhere near a gun. It doesn't matter that this brother complied. It doesn't matter he didn't have a record. It doesn't matter this gun was legally owned. Because if you're an armed black man, you're a threat in America. Individually, they may can handle you. As a collective, it's a problem. And of course, you won't hear anything from the NRA, from this legal gun owner, because they're too busy talking about school shootings and why the answer is more guns. Give the teachers guns. But I wonder if they'll tell us the same thing. The answer is more guns. Give the people getting murdered guns. You won't hear any of that from the NRA. But at some point, enough has to be enough. But I'm tired of having the same conversation they were having in 1965. We can't afford to be having the same conversation in 2065. At the end of the day, we are all we got, and it's never going to stop until we stop it.
Someone like Dr. Martin Luther King should go down there?
No, King doesn't. We've got local residents here. King doesn't put out all the fires in the United States. There are some local Negroes here that are leaders in these situations. Now, we would assume that they have some influence on them, or they wouldn't be representing them. Now, those individuals are certainly in a position to go down there and talk to these people and tell them that this is inordinate and they shouldn't continue it.
That Thursday afternoon, one of those leaders Parker referred to, the Reverend H.H. Brookins, with other ministers and politicians, black and white, called a peace meeting at a neighborhood playground.
And I submit to you that we shall not see a Harlem or Rochester or New York. We can solve it. It is yet time.
But Brookins and the others learned they themselves did not understand their people, did not know the intensity of their rage, and could not plumb the depth of their hate.
Because I was on Avalon last night. See, and I'm going to tell you something. Tonight it's going to be another one, whether you like it or not. Listen. See, we, the Negro people down here have gotten completely fed up. And you know what they're going to do tonight? They don't care. They're not gonna fight down here no more. You know where they going? They after the white people. Now they after the white people. They gonna congregate. They gonna caravan out in Inglewood, Playa del Rey, and everywhere else the white man supposed to stay. They gonna do the white man in tonight. And I'm
seed of its own destruction. And that for us to continue to try and meet violence with violence is the wrong way. That's all. It's pure and simple. I believe that while we talk about people staying off the street.
Hey, Officer Allen. Now, can you explain to me why you locked my son up, though? What did he do wrong? I want to know.
I don't have anything to say to you.
Why you don't? This is your duty to talk to me. But this is your duty, though, to tell me.
Around your back.
I ain't got to put that behind my back. What you mean? I ain't got to put nothing behind my back. For real, I ain't did nothing. I ain't did nothing wrong. But I ain't did nothing wrong, though.
You ain't tightening up, cuz.
What you grab my phone for? What you grab my phone for? Don't jack me up now. Don't jack me up now. I ain't did nothing. Get back from me. Hey, look, man. Hold up, man. Hold up, man. What is you doing? I'm supposed to you now. I'm telling you what to do. Get off me. Get off me. Daddy, calm down. Calm down. Hey, yo, Smike. Put your hands behind your back. Hey. Yo, somebody. Hey, somebody get my brother. They kicking my bro. They kicking my daddy, bro. What's wrong with y'all, bro? Come on, bro. Bro, come on, bro. Hey, on my brother at, bro. Hey, come down this way. Bro.
Keep on going.
Hey, they keep chasing my fucking dad. What's wrong with y'all, bro? Just arrest them. Hey, come this way. They chasing daddy, bro. Come the other fucking way, bro. Bro, come this way, bro. Come the other way. They chasing daddy, bro. The other way. It's the opposite way, bro. They still chasing them, bro. Come on, bro. Just arrest them. Bro, it's in my arm next, bro. Bro, come on, bro. Come this way, bro. They chasing daddy, bro. That's my daddy, man. Yes, bro. Come this way, bro. Bro, hurry. Bro, they chasing daddy. Come the other fucking way, bro. Bro, they wrestling there, bro. I swear to fucking God, bro. Come on, bro. Hurry up, bro. God damn, bro. Bro, they racist as fuck, bro. I swear to God, bro. They got my brother and they got my daddy, bro. Bro, come on, bro. Bro, I swear to God, bro. They racist as fuck, bro. Bro, ain't nothing I can do, bro.
I know,
bro, I swear to God, bro. Bro, they rape, bro.
I know, right? Are you recording?
Bro, I swear to God, bro. They just arrested my brother, bro.
I saw that and they tased him when they shouldn't. Are you recording it?
Yes, I'm getting everything, bro. The first thing racist as fuck, bro. But nah, bro, they racist, bro. See, I'm glad my daddy fucking smart, bro. He recorded all this, bro. Bro, hell no, bro.
Shocking new video tonight of a Charlotte dad getting tased and arrested at his son's high school football game. He says it should have never happened. And tonight he is fighting to get the charges dropped. NBC Charlotte's Hunter Sines joins us with the details. All new tonight.
That father-son plays for Vance High School's football team. They were at an away game in Rockingham when that incident took place, and the father live streamed the ordeal on Facebook. This Facebook Live shows Stephen Sings approaching Richmond Sheriff's deputies at a football game. He walks up to ask why one of his sons was arrested at the front gate.
Now, can you explain to me why you locked my son up, though? What did he do wrong? I want to know.
I don't have anything to say to you.
Then the deputy asked Sings multiple times to put his hands behind his back.
Put your hands around your back.
And I ain't got to put that behind my back.
But that in part led to this. At least one deputy seen tasing Sings.
All he did was ask a question.
Civil rights activist John Barnett II is supporting Sings.
He didn't threaten the officer. He didn't swing at the officer. He didn't curse the officer out. He asked two simple questions, which was the same question. Why did my son get arrested?
His son allegedly arrested for disorderly conduct. Now Sings is charged with that and assault on a government official, charges he wants dropped.
He said he put his hand behind his back and then they tased him in his back.
Sings is out on bond, and now Vance's football team plans to show their support at their next game, wearing this sticker on their helmets.
And on that will be, Stephen's initials, SKS.
We reached out to the Richmond County Sheriff's Office but have not heard back yet. Barnett says one of the deputies seen in that video was put on administrative leave, but the department isn't saying which one.
Three county commissioners want a Hamilton County detective fired.
This after a video surfaced showing Blake Kilpatrick punching and kicking a man in handcuffs. Our Michelle Herron was at the commission meeting today and explains why the sheriff says it's not that easy. Michelle?
You know, David, this was the first time commissioners have addressed the video that surfaced nearly 3 weeks ago. And now the sheriff is responding.
And I'm asking and demanding as well, Sheriff Hammond, that Deputy Kilpatrick be fired.
Strong language from 3 Hamilton County commissioners.
When there are wrongdoings in our presence, it is up to us to hold people accountable.
Calling on Sheriff Jim Hammond to fire Detective Blake Kilpatrick for punching and kicking a man in handcuffs.
And I'm demanding that he be fired.
Hammond said after Wednesday's commission meeting, his hands are tied while the Justice Department investigates.
If the district attorney or the Justice Department tells me tomorrow there'll be indictments, I'm obligated to terminate it. But I'm not going to rush to judgment based on just what may be an emotional feeling. As sheriff, I can't do that.
Commissioners and community members called for more minorities and training throughout the Sheriff's Department. Something the sheriff says he's been working on for years and will continue to do so. For now, he says all he can do is wait until an independent investigation is complete.
And that's why we have to let the process work. We got to let the wheels of justice turn the way they're supposed to.
Now, according to the arrest report, Tony was biting and spitting on the officer. He says that's not true.
They beat me for 10 minutes straight, saying they didn't like my music. They don't like what I speak about. They don't like me. They don't like what I drive.
Hamilton County deputies released a statement about Tony's injuries, saying he did not have a broken finger, collapsed lung, or broken ribs at the time he was booked into jail.
Charges against Charles Toney that were connected to that arrest, caught on camera, were dropped in General Sessions Court yesterday.
Troubling investigation underway at 2 of America's most prestigious military academies. Several cadets and midshipmen seen on live TV at the Army-Navy football game, possibly flashing hand symbols, sometimes associated with white supremacists. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, the West Point Military Academy launching an investigation after cadets at Saturday's Army-Navy football game in Philadelphia flashed this hand gesture, sometimes associated with hate groups. Watch closely.
You ask anybody that's ever had to deal with the cadets.
While an ESPN broadcaster reports during a pregame live shot, at least 4 cadets put up the symbol. One of them even sliding into the camera shot to make his hand gesture and face visible. Another making the gesture directly behind a minority cadet. Tonight, the U.S. Naval Academy saying, based on findings of the investigation, those involved will be held appropriately accountable. It would be inappropriate to speculate any further while we are conducting this investigation. The hand gesture looks like the OK sign. While the symbol can have other innocent meanings, it's been adopted by the white nationalist community after the Christchurch mosque shootings in New Zealand earlier this year, when, according to the Anti-Defamation League, it began to signify white power.
We should never make assumptions about why people are using it. It has gone to a much darker and, I think, more dangerous place.
The names of these cadets have still not been released, and none of them have commented so far, meaning right now the intention behind these gestures is still not clear.
United States Naval Academy officials say there's no evidence of racist intent following an investigation into 2 midshipmen flashing what appeared to be white power signs at the Army-Navy game. According to officials, the freshmen were participating in, quote, the circle game with West Point cadets. It was reported cadets and midshipmen were making an OK sign with their hands, something often used among white supremacists. But some military veterans said it was actually a part of a game the students play. Officials say they are now confident the gestures were not with racist intent, but say they are disappointed by the immature behavior of the 2 fourth-class midshipmen.
The school said they were going to find the students who made racist chants during a high school girls basketball game. And they found the students, says our Charlie DeMar in the newsroom tonight. Charlie?
Brad, good evening. At St. Edward Central Catholic High School, using this as a teachable moment. They've identified and disciplined those students who made those racist and offensive noises. The school principal also saying in a statement tonight that the kids recognize how inappropriate and offensive their behavior was.
It happened during a high school girls basketball game Saturday. St. Edward Central Catholic High School students can be heard in the stands making animal noises as a black player from Kankakee Bishop McNamara Catholic High School shot free throws.
Kids kept doing it the whole game. These kids were not put out of the game. They were not approached and put out of the game or made to leave.
Another player, the target of body-shaming chants. But now the students behind those racist and offensive noises have been identified and disciplined.
And so it has to be addressed.
Deacon Art Miller, who heads the Office for Black Catholic Ministries, seen in this video speaking about bullying, will visit St. Edward next month and share his message of social injustice.
Some of them may not even understand the seriousness of what they were doing. They thought that they were just heckling. Your heckling was racist and insensitive, and you were body shaming one girl and you were being racist toward the other. Let's get them some sensitivity training so they can be better in their lives going forward.
And again, that training is coming up in just a few weeks.
This Bossier City police officer, 38-year-old Terry Tillman, is behind bars after state police say they found videos of him sexually abusing animals. Our Bia Roldan is on this bizarre case for us. Bia, what's the latest?
Well, Jerry Tillman turned himself in yesterday. He's charged with 20 counts of sexual abuse with an animal and another 20 counts of filming sexual abuse with an animal. The Louisiana State Police Special Victims Unit began investigating Tillman in August. We're told pornography involving sex acts with an animal were found on his electronic devices. State police did not give details about what type of animal was involved or whether the videos were on a cell phone or computer. Bossier City Police were told about the investigation in November. That's when they placed Tillman on paid leave. He's still in Bossier Maximum Security Correctional Facility on bonds totaling $350,000. Now, we asked police how they felt when they first heard about this.
Obviously, we all have some high emotions right now that are going on, but I think the general consensus of the chief as well as the patrol officers and the officers of the Bossier City Police Department, and that is that we want justice to be served.
All we can do is uphold the law. We're not here to be the judge or the jury, and that's one of the things that law enforcement officers have to do on a daily basis is do our very best to separate ourselves emotionally from what we have to deal with.
Tillman started working for Bossier City Police in November 2014. He was recently honored by a local foundation for his work with domestic violence victims. That happened in November. Now, the investigation into this is still ongoing, and police tell us more charges could be filed against Tillman. Reporting live in Bossier City, Bia Roldan, KTBS 3 News.
What a shocking turn for that officer. Bia, thanks. Tillman has worked for several law enforcement agencies, including one where he resigned amidst an excessive force investigation. He's also worked as a canine handler.
Information now at 10 on a former Bossier City canine officer accused of animal sex abuse. We first broke the news at 6 that he had been rearrested. Now we've learned he's in custody on 31 counts of child pornography. At around 3 today, U.S. Marshals and State Police, with help from Webster Parish SO and Mendon PD, arrested Terry Tillman at his home in Mendon. Back in December, Yetman was charged with more than 40 charges related to animal sex abuse. We're told he could face even more charges in connection to the child pornography.
We don't have time for this anymore. Do you understand that? We don't have time for this. Get your hood rat ass in your fucking car, bitch.
They're loving this.
Okay?
They've never seen so much action because they're not from the hood. They're wannabe.
You need to leave.
Badass motorcycle.
Call Barbara. Call Barbara right now. You touch me again. You touch me again. You are still this small. You never, ever touch me. Ever. There's someone right here. You touch me again. That's right. Keep getting scared. Keep getting scared. Keep getting scared. Keep getting scared. You already touched me. You already touched me. I told you. Bitch, you ruined my life for 6 months. 6 months. I'm stuck. Get away from me. You have that. We already have you hitting me first. Get away from me. Let me tell you something. You put a fucking another bullet on my door.
Get away from me.
Rawr. I'm a fat blood. Rawr. I'm a little man.
Get away from me.
Never. Tell you get away from me. You leave right now. You leave right now. Leave me alone.
Get away from me. Get the fuck away from me.
Get away. Get away with that one.
Get away from me. Get away from me.
Go inside. Let him get in his fucking car.
Get away from me.
Now.
Get away from me.
Now.
Get away from me.
I hope you have the video of him punching you in the face. You got the video?
All right, get up out.
You got it?
Are you worried about it?
You got it? He should be.
Get it.
It's all on you. You're done.
Get away from me. Get the fuck off me. Get the fuck off me. Get the fuck off me.
Hey, Knight, come on.
You go inside. You go inside. You had to punch a woman because you're that much of a
Yes. Keep your fucking hands off me, you dumb bitch.
You fucking put your hands on me.
Get the fuck back.
You gotta fight. You want to girl?
Hey.
Get away from me.
I thought you were an MMA fighter.
Get away from me. Get away from me.
Look at this shit.
I am not. You go inside. I go inside.
Get away from me.
Punch me twice. I hope you have that video, son. Hope you have that video.
Get away from me.
That's right. You had to punch.
Get away from me.
It's over for you, son.
Back the fuck up.
It's over for you.
We're
going to court now, so it doesn't matter. You better stay here. The cuffs are coming.
Come on then.
Come on. Fuck me, you.
Come on then.
Come on.
Mind what you're doing, man.
All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, we as a collective cannot be afraid or ashamed of defending ourselves. We let people straw man us to death about why we shouldn't be defending ourselves. If we say stop killing us, they say, oh, that means you hate all white people. That means you want to kill all white people. But nobody really cares about all white people. But they're so arrogant, they think people think about them all the time. But that's because they're really thinking about us all the time. And most of their time has been spent trying to keep us in our position. And to be honest, it's only really 3 times it matters when a white person is racist. If you work for the government in any kind of way, from being a lawmaker to being a policeman, if you hold a position where you make decisions affecting other people's lives. Number 2, and it doesn't matter as much to me, but if you hire for anybody, for any company. But we really need to start rebuilding our own businesses and hiring ourselves anyway. Of course, they're going to look out for themselves. We have to look out for ourselves. And number 3, when you're violent, when you attack somebody based off their race. And I know some people will say, well, black people are violent too. Well, black people don't feel the way they do about white people because of their race. They feel that way because of their history. We're not prejudging before the fact. We have hundreds of years of evidence that leads us to believe this way. But we simply don't have this history of violence against them. If we were as violent as they claim we are, we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. But we cannot continue to let people come in and keep harming us. We cannot continue to take casualties. But they've beaten the mindset into us where we think protecting ourselves is wrong. They've instilled self-hate into us. They've been passing laws forbidding us from protecting ourselves for hundreds of years. One of the first gun laws in America, before it was America, before the Constitution, before the Second Amendment, in the early 1600s, Virginia passed a law banning all black people from owning any kind of guns. And at the same time, making white people not owning a gun punishable by law. Because they were instilling in them that they need to keep us in our place. And instilling in us that we need to stay in our place from the very beginning. For hundreds of years, there were literally laws on the books making it illegal for us to protect ourselves. And that trauma does get passed down. But we don't have any other choice but to overcome it. And today they love to bring up Martin Luther King and talk about love and forgiveness. But even Martin Luther King tried to get a gun. And guess what? They denied him. And he was receiving death threats every day. The man got shot in the face. And we all know what happened when the Black Panthers just started exercising their gun rights. They just changed the law completely. But for them, it's not about right and wrong. It's about maintaining a position. And for us, it can't be about right or wrong. It has to be about liberation, liberty or death, by any means necessary. We're afraid to talk about defending ourselves, living in a country that spends so much money on self-defense. A place that is always celebrated is right to own guns. But every time we're anywhere near a gun, us being murdered is justified. In St. Louis, a brother Terry Tillman was shot and killed by the police. Now let's see how this brother ended up getting shot and killed by the police.
A grieving family and an ongoing investigation tonight after a deadly officer-involved shooting near the Galleria Mall. It happened around 3 this afternoon. Our Morgan Young reports this all started inside the mall. She's live with the latest. Morgan.
Well, Casey, what looks like nothing behind me right now was a very active scene just a few hours ago. You know, the area around the Galleria is busy on a regular weekend, but this is a holiday weekend, one known for good shopping deals. So you have to imagine the number of people who were out here when all of this happened. Police say it started with a mall security guard believing he saw a man inside the mall with a gun. What should have been a busy shopping day
Sounded like 5 shots.
quickly turned busy for a different reason.
I heard a lot of commotion, people was running.
Here, right across the street from the St. Louis Galleria, Shemaya Allen says she was on her way to meet her boyfriend at the mall.
I was like, didn't see him in there. I'm like, where is he? And they were like, he had a gun on him and the cops were chasing him.
So she followed.
And I seen his hat and his bandana and I was like, oh my God, like, he must have really been running.
She made it outside, still confused, to find a group of people watching.
I was like, what's going on? And they're like, dude that's running, he's dead.
She and his family identify him as 23-year-old Terry Tillman. St. Louis County Police says a mall security guard believed Tillman had a gun on him.
There was either a bulge or something that was protruding from a waistband.
That guard notified a Richmond Heights officer who police say approached Tillman about the mall's zero-tolerance policy on guns. That's when police say Tillman took off running and the officer chased him. That chase ended here across the street at the Simmons building. That's where an officer shot him. He died at the scene. Police recovered this weapon from the scene. Tillman's sister says she has more questions.
Everybody's carrying their guns nowadays. If he was flashing it, that's one thing, but if it was concealed, I don't see what the issue was.
The St. Louis Galleria's website says guns are not allowed in the mall. I asked both his sister and girlfriend if they knew he carried.
I didn't know, actually.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Jamie McDowell says she had just texted her brother.
Terry, it's all well. If so, continue to be careful and watch your back. I love you.
Why did you send that to him?
Because I just had 2 dreams that my brother got shot.
A nightmare turned reality, one leaving many asking why. Now, perhaps one of the biggest questions here is what led that officer to feel the need to fire shots at Tillman. Sergeant Ben Granda with St. Louis County said it's presumable that that officer felt threatened. He said that during a press conference this afternoon. He also said that they believe there are a lot more witnesses than who they spoke with today, and they're asking those witnesses to come forward so that some of these questions can get answered.
Now, this brother Terry Tillman did have a gun, and in St. Louis, you can walk around with a gun, but the mall said you can't have it there. So while he was at the mall, a security guard told the police it looked like he had a gun. And then when the police approached him, this brother took off running. Now, as the cops were chasing his brother, they claimed he pulled out his gun. They didn't say whether he was pointing at him or shooting at him. They just said it looked like he pulled it out. And of course, they say they feared for their life and had no other choice but to open fire. And the police said they secured the gun on the scene. And I don't know if there's any body camera footage of any of this happening, but somebody on the scene was recording with their phone. And the video showed one of the cops going into the police car, getting a gun, and bringing it back to the scene.
The news conference was held here at St. Paul AME Baptist Church in North St. Louis this afternoon, where Terry Tillman's family and community leaders gathered demanding action. This is video released for the first time. It was captured by 2 women who were inside a beauty shop. They watched as officers worked the crime scene outside. Community leaders claim the video shows a Richmond Heights police officer walking to a police car after the shooting. He's wearing a blue rubber glove on his hand. The activists claim the officer grabbed a weapon and walked towards the scene where Tillman was shot and killed. Community leaders say the scene was already secured and allege if Terry Tillman had a weapon, it would be next to his body. They are making strong allegations the weapon was planted on Tillman. St. Louis County Police, who are handling the investigation, had not seen the video until today. But two officers who saw Tillman inside the Galleria say he had an extended magazine on his gun. They approached Tillman because guns are not allowed on Galleria property. Investigators say Tillman ran from officers. They chased him and alerted dispatch about the chase. Other officers arrived, and county police say a Richmond Heights police officer shot and killed Tillman in the parking garage near the Galleria after Tillman raised his gun at officers.
The video shows that the Richmond Heights police corrupting the crime scene by actually getting a gun out of the Richmond Heights SUV and putting gloves on and firing the weapon that supposedly been that Terry Tillman had to the scene where he was actually killed. And so what we're saying that he did not have that weapon at the time that he was actually shot.
Police viewed the video for the first time today and released the following statement. The actions taken by law enforcement on scene, including the securing Mr. Tillman's weapon after the shooting, were known and have been documented in the investigation. In other words, police say the video shows officers securing the gun after officers recovered the gun from the shooting scene. They also say we have and will continue to contact persons that may have information pertaining to this incident. In some cases, we have been met with resistance and refusal. In addition, police say they have known about the video since asking for the public's help in August. However, they say both women involved in shooting the video have refused to talk with police, provide their names, or share the video with investigators.
Now, the cell phone video clearly shows the cop getting a gun from out of the cop car, but the police said they had already secured the scene. But then why would they take the gun back to the scene if they already secured it? Now, a lot of people believe the police are just covering up the shooting. And of course, they're telling us just be patient and let us finish investigating ourselves. Because when it comes to our death, we always have to be patient. And we shouldn't believe our own eyes. We just need to take their word for it. But they won't release any of their video. And the only video that is released looks bad for them. And we as a collective do continue to be patient. And they continue to murder us for exercising the very rights that they're willing to die to keep. Try to take their Second Amendment right or say they can't have a gun from them and see what happens. But for us, it doesn't matter if it's a legal gun or not. If you have a gun anywhere near you, it's justified. They say that's what you get for doing anything to try to protect yourself. When it comes to us, we have to wait on the justice system designed to destroy us. In Alabama, a brother, Lakeith Smith, got a 65-year sentence after the police shot and killed his friend Adonte Washington and then charged him with his murder.
On the morning of February 23, 2015, 5 teenagers drove to the end of a quiet street in Millbrook, Alabama, about 10 miles north of Montgomery. The teens, who were armed, broke into an empty house, stealing electronics and money, then went up the block to another empty home. A suspicious neighbor called 911.
Well, I think we got them blocked off right now if you're still there.
2 Millbrook police officers soon arrived. One went in the front, the other along the side. Gunfire broke out. As the second officer ran towards the backyard, one of the teens, 16-year-old Adonte Washington, came through a back gate carrying a gun. The officer hit Washington 3 times. He died at the scene. Andre Washington is Adonte's father.
It's a good son, good child.
Washington remembers his son as a quiet kid who dreamed of playing football for the University of Florida.
Full of energy when he was young, just full of energy. After high school, he wanted to go to like the Florida Gators.
As the shock of his son's death sunk in, Washington learned something else shocking. Though none had pulled the trigger, the 4 other teens at the house were all being charged not just with burglary and theft, but with murder. The murder of Adonte Washington.
It's crazy.
Do you think the other boys are responsible for Adonte's death?
No.
In Alabama, a murder conviction can bring a sentence of up to 99 years. 3 of the teens took plea deals. The fourth, Lakeith Smith, was offered 25 years, but he rejected it and took his case to court. C.J. Robinson is the Chief Deputy District Attorney for Alabama's 19th Circuit.
He didn't pull the trigger. He didn't kill anybody. So how can he possibly be charged with murder?
I think that's a great question. And, to answer that question, you really have to look at Alabama law. When you look at how that law is on the books and how it's applied in Alabama, it goes to the foreseeable factor, all right?
In Alabama, the law says all suspects can be charged with murder if a death occurs during a felony that's clearly dangerous to human life. Another legal standard used is that the death was foreseeable.
Do I think when I break into this house, an officer is going to come running in and we're going to get in a gunfight? Is that foreseeable? Yes. The question for us was, is it foreseeable that someone could die based off these 5 young men's conduct? Our answer was absolutely.
Alabama's law is based on something called the felony murder rule, a centuries-old legal concept. Back in Alabama, even though Lakeith Smith was 15 at the time of the shootings, he was tried in adult court. Brontina Smith is Lakeith's mother.
Your son was offered a deal.
He was.
Plea deal. He did not take it.
Did not.
Why not?
That was my son's thing. He was like, I didn't kill anybody. Like, why am I admitting to a murder that I know I didn't commit? The cop killed him.
That cop was cleared of wrongdoing. Lakeith Smith's trial took place in 2018 in rural Elmore County, north of Montgomery. An all-white jury found him guilty of burglary, theft, and murder.
It's like, if you don't do what they want you to do, I'm gonna show you.
He did commit a crime.
He did. And he should have got the proper time for the crime that he committed, the burglary and the stolen property. To 65 years on a young guy, 15, who didn't kill no one. Didn't kill no one and didn't shoot at no one. Alabama.
Now, these 5 teenage brothers were doing something they had no business doing. They broke into 2 empty houses stealing stuff, and somebody saw them and called the police. So then when the police showed up, they ran. And when the brother Adonte Washington ran through the gate, a cop was standing right there and shot him 3 times. Now, just about every time a police shoot somebody, nobody gets punished, nobody going to jail. They just getting a paid vacation and that's it. But in this case, the police charged the 4 other black teenagers with this brother death, even though the police were the ones who shot him. And that's based on the old Alabama law, and that law is in other places, that if you commit a crime and somebody gets killed, then you could be charged. Now, of course, in this case, they're saying the police killing somebody was a crime, even though if the brother would have been by himself, it wouldn't have been a crime for the police to shoot and kill him, and nobody would have been charged. But in this case, they charged all 4 of them with murder. Now, 3 of them ended up taking plea deals, but the brother Lakeith Smith declined it because he said he didn't kill anybody. When he went to court, they ended up convicting him of first-degree murder. And they sentenced him to 30 years for something the cop did. The police are basically saying, you knew we was gonna kill you niggas, so you're responsible for what happened. Now, nobody is saying they shouldn't be punished for the crimes they did commit, but they shouldn't be punished for something that the police did. Even the brother Adonte Washington parents don't agree with them charging the other teenagers for his death. They were teenagers doing stupid stuff, breaking into empty houses. And even though if this brother was by himself, the police would have never said it was murder or charged anybody for murder. In this case, they charged 4 people with murder and convict 1 person of first-degree murder. But this is why we need our own system. We need our own police to call. We need our own court system. You won't see America let North Korea punish an American citizen, and we shouldn't let outside groups punish our own. We need to find a way to build our own institutions, but we can't do that until we get on code and do what we have to do. At the end of the day, we don't have no other choice because we are all we got. And until we learn that, the same things will keep happening over and over and over.
Nah, we dead, man.
And we was at that spot already.
We was here already.
We didn't even know over there.
Can I just take a real quick, fellas, or no? Nah, fuck all that, man. It's a new
we
day,
jumped off the line to come back on the line. After they told us that this was a breaking bad.
I'll take care of that.
okay?
Nah, she should still be on the back, man. Fuck all
I'm
that.
gonna wait till you take her, then I'll take her. Is that okay with y'all?
Nah, man. My man got to go first, man.
You take me and then take her.
Yeah, well, take her last.
You laughing at me?
No, you
When
bitch,
do
you
you
skip,
want?
man. Fuck out of here.
When
You're a
do
fucking
you
liar.
want?
You're a fucking thief and you're a fucking cheater, man. Fuck out of
I'm
here,
not a
man.
cheater.
You're a cheater. My man was
No,
already
you are
in front.
the
You fucking
cheater
cracker
here.
devil. You a fucking cheater. You fucking
no,
devil.
you are the
Fuck out
fucking
of here.
cheater.
You're a fucking devil, cracker. And you're a fucking cheater, man. Fuck out of here. And I'm throwing this shit up on World Star, man. It's your motherfucking turn, man. Now you getting embarrassing. I'll call police, bitch. You still going on World Star. That shit ain't charging shit, bitch. Fuck out of here, man. You're gonna lose your job by the morning. Word up. This is a cheater, man.
Don't
and a
tell me
thief,
everybody
man.
else is spending like $70, $80.
This is a cheater and a thief right here, man. Wait your fucking turn, dude. You fucking liar. You scumbag. You're a scumbag, man. You're a fucking scumbag. You're a piece of shit. Doghead, dog canine, motherfucking scumbag, dog canine. You're a motherfucking disease, man. You the problem with the world, man. You crackers are the problem with the fucking world, man. And I'm throwing this shit all on World Star, man. To expose your nature, man.
You start thinking me up.
You're a fucking parasite, man. You're a fucking experiment, man.
Nope. I'm gonna go back
Fuck
home.
out of here, man. You're an experiment, man. You're gonna get brain cancer as soon as you leave here. You're gonna get brain cancer. You're not gonna make it to 2021. You getting brain cancer. Goddamn cheater. You dog, you liar, you beast, you savage, you ape, you dog. Fuck out of here.
Putting a price on slaves. It's the troubling class assignment that's now landing a Missouri teacher on administrative leave. Alexis Zotos reports.
Walker says she was shocked to find this assignment in her son's folder, asking him to set a price for a slave.
My husband is 10 times more hurt because being an African American man and knowing that his family, son, and he even said to him, what are we doing here, bud? Like, do you understand there's no value on a life?
One of the questions reads, you own a plantation or farm and therefore need more workers. You begin to get involved in the slave trade industry.
There's no value to playing a game about slavery.
As the mother of a biracial child, but also a teacher herself in a diverse district, Walker says there are other ways to talk about the history of slavery. The assignment was given to the 5th grade class at Blades Elementary in the Melville School District last week. The principal says it was about market practices in early America.
St. Louis Public School District does so many wonderful professional developments on trauma-informed, on cultural sensitivity, and making sure that what we do is thinking of every type of demographic that we serve in our communities.
She says that's her hope in this situation, that her son's teacher and the district as a whole can learn from this. The district has placed that teacher on administrative leave and says they will be working with all staff on cultural bias in the near future.
We have to be more culturally sensitive. We do. We can say to get over homework assignments, it's just a homework assignment. That was 100 years ago. Yes, it was, but it's still someone else's family. Maybe there are people who don't see the wrong in it. We need to be talking about it.
That's Alexis Zotos reporting the NAACP has called for a formal apology from the teacher as well as the superintendent, and they also offered to help train school staff.
We are calling for you to be removed immediately. Remove immediately.
And now at 5 o'clock, angry cries from students and teachers at a school in the Bronx. The group rallying against the principal at MS 224 after the principal told a teacher at the school she couldn't teach Black history.
This is, of course, Black History Month, and the majority of the students at the school happen to be Black or Hispanic. So a lot of parents are asking, why was the teacher singled out?
Eyewitness News reporter Joe Torres live in the Mott Haven section with the very latest for us. Joe?
Diana, according to the teacher at the center of this controversy, this involves much more than just the shutdown of a lesson on Black History Month. According to the teacher, this also involves the white principal's mistreatment of teachers and students here at the school, most of whom are Black and Latino.
Our history now.
Parents and students rallied outside MS 224 in Mahaven to support an English teacher who claims the school principal is racist. Mercedes Lariano Clark says Principal Patricia Catania shut down her lessons on Black history in the middle of Black History Month.
She says that I'm an ELA teacher and therefore I shouldn't be teaching that. But it's part of the New York State curriculum. So you're telling New York State that they're wrong for instituting that type of curriculum in our schools?
Luriano Clark said even the students were appalled by the principal's action. Students who read, wrote, and developed storyboards about Black history.
I felt very angry by this situation because all of our boards was out there. We put our hard work into it, and she did not take not 1 minute of her time to look at it.
Because it's something that has to be stopped. You know, why shouldn't they be allowed to learn about their history? You know, 1 month of the year, 1 month.
Luriano Clark and her supporters say there's only one solution to the issues involving her principal.
She should not be around children. That type of mindset should not be in a school mindset. She needs to be removed and ultimately fired.
Now, just a few minutes ago, we got a statement from the Department of Education which reads, in part, all schools must provide a supportive and inclusive environment, and there's no place for discrimination or bias in any of our schools. The statement goes on to add that the complaints here at the school are being investigated and that students are, in fact, working on projects related to Black History Month.
Now to that apology from singer Camila Cabello. Speaking out this morning after past social media posts were discovered, posts that she is now calling, quote, horrible and hurtful. Ariel Reshef is here with this story. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. A day after those derogatory comments surfaced, the superstar taking to social media to apologize, saying she knows her past language was wrong and asking for forgiveness.
Music superstar Camila Cabello feeling the heat this morning, apologizing for past racist language and images she allegedly used on a now deleted social media account. Cabello writing in a statement, "When I was younger, I used language that I'm deeply ashamed of and will regret forever. I was uneducated and ignorant, and once I became aware of the history and the weight and the true meaning behind this horrible and hurtful language, I was deeply embarrassed I ever used it." The former Fifth Harmony star's statement comes a day after a social media user posted a now defunct Tumblr blog that they claim belonged to Cabello. The account, which is several years old, contains a series of racist jokes and memes. While Cabello, who dates fellow pop star Shawn Mendes, did not specifically say the account in question was hers, she went on to write, "I can't say enough how deeply sorry and ashamed I feel, and I apologize again from the bottom of my heart." But that apology not enough for many this morning, who are taking to Twitter to vent their frustration. One woman writing that even though the 22-year-old star may have made the post when she was a teenager, at 15 she had to know racism is wrong. Others coming to her defense, tweeting, "At this moment, we must take her apology and hope she truly means it."
And Cabello also writing in her apology, "As much as I wish I could, I can't go back in time and change the things I said in the past, but once you know better, you do better, and that's all I can do." So a little bit of introspection this morning.
A New York City police officer accused of being drunk, breaking into a Nashville home, and using a racial slur faced a judge today. The homeowner, also in court, relived the incident.
News Channel 5's Brandon Marshall spoke with the woman outside the courtroom and has her reaction and the officer's plea.
I still wake up at the same exact time every night since then, since last summer.
Conice Halliburton relived a nightmare in court today. Last summer, New York City police officer Michael Reynolds vacationed in Nashville with friends. On July 9th, around 2:30 in the morning, he's accused of breaking into Halliburton's home and using a racial slur toward her and her two sons. His Airbnb was right next door.
With aggravated burglary, carrying a 3-15-year sentence in state penitentiary.
Reynolds, who faces a felony aggravated burglary and 3 assault charges, pled no contest in front of a judge.
When you can do something like that, you can go to another state and you can commit a crime and you're a police officer. What are you doing in New York?
She finds difficulty sleeping at night.
My kids still wake up with nightmares.
Ultimately, she hopes the officer serves time.
He knows what he did. It's on video. It's audio. There was people there, so how can you not plead guilty and say this is what you did and stand up and be truthful? You're an officer.
This 25-year-old officer will find out his fate during a sentencing hearing scheduled for November. In Nashville, Brandon Marshall, News Channel 5.
Reynolds' lawyer did not speak with the media after today's hearing. Meanwhile, at last check, the NYPD had suspended Officer Reynolds without pay.
Jury selection starts today in the trial of a Fort Worth police officer. He's accused of punching a man and then lying about it.
Fox 4's Brandon Todd is in downtown Fort Worth with more. Brandon?
Well, good morning. Yeah, Officer John Romer was working an off-duty security job at the time. Body camera video shows him punch and then choke Henry Newson at Harris Methodist Hospital in November of 2016. Newson was a patient who had just been discharged. He was arrested for trespassing, but those charges were dropped. Romer was indicted in March of last year on charges of official oppression, perjury, and making a false report to a peace officer. According to the indictment, Romer falsely told investigators the use of force had been approved by the Fort Worth Police Department. Romer was placed on restricted duty after his arrest. That's his status today. His punishment within the department will be determined after that trial is over, and I'm told by the special prosecutor in the case that jury selection should take most of today, and testimony isn't expected to begin until sometime tomorrow.
A year ago, Judge Mabel Jansen got involved in a heated exchange on activist Gillian Skitter's Facebook wall. During that debate, Jansen argued that rape was an inherent part of black culture.
She's really demonized, animalized, victimized black people. And she's in a position where she actually presides over cases of gender-based violence, violence against women. And she sees herself as somebody who speaks on behalf of women.
Skitter republished the judge's comments following the backlash against student Tukozo Kwabe, whose Facebook post about not tipping a white waitress until whites gave the land back prompted some groups to demand that Oxford University revoke his scholarship. Now, Judge Jansen is facing calls for her removal from office.
Those are not beliefs that a judge who is supposed to be fit and proper for the bench are meant to embody and to hold.
Judge Jansen has said that she's unable to fully deal with the accusations against her because her husband died over the weekend. But she has reportedly also stated that instead of branding her as a racist, South Africans needed to face up to the country's rape epidemic and find ways of solving it. The ANC says Jansen's comments show the need to evaluate whether the judiciary truly is transformed.
For someone in that position to make such statements, really, it rubbishes the notion that judges are beyond reproach.
While the Judicial Service Commission mulls over what action to take in this ugly saga, there is also a very real possibility that those black men convicted and sentenced by Jansen may very well use her Facebook comments as grounds for appeal.
Hateful vandalism in one Queens community on Thanksgiving morning.
Be reminded of the hate in the world, especially during the holidays. It's a time to focus on the good things in life and being thankful.
But Jacqueline Correcchia, who's been living in Howard Beach her whole life, says she was reminded of hate on Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving morning, my children and I got up excited to begin the day, as most families are, and we came out to see the graffiti.
Words like expletive white people were spray painted in black and red all over fences, trees, and sidewalks near 151st Avenue and 81st Street. These are the disturbing photos taken by people in the neighborhood.
Words that you don't want to see. Curses, some racial things. It was just very hateful and very inappropriate. I felt that it was something that no parent wants their child to see.
Lena Francis is also a longtime Howard Beach resident.
It's something scary, and dangerous for the area, like the people write something like that.
Neighbors say despite the hurtful graffiti on their properties, something good came out of it. It brought the community together.
It did bring the neighborhood together. The neighbors, we all helped each other. We power washed each other's trees.
We're told even responding officers joined the cleanup effort. But still, the vulgar words cut deep for many families who just wanted to celebrate and give thanks with their loved ones this holiday.
I don't want to see it again. It's disgusting. I want to see the person that did this get caught.
And as you can see, all of the graffiti in this neighborhood has since been removed. People we talk with in this neighborhood say they hope their kids never have to see anything like it again. As for who did this, we're told there is a full investigation underway. The NYPD's hate crimes unit is investigating.
You being real fucking disrespectful.
I'm being disrespectful.
Yeah,
I was nice.
Like I said, you weren't nice.
Like I
He's
said, I can
nice.
do whatever the fuck I want to do. I can say whatever the fuck I want to say. You feel me? Touch my car, dude. Simple as that. Go ahead and hit my car. I ain't gonna when you touch do it. shit. You in my face, my nigga. Yeah. So what you want to do? You're the one with the Like I mouth. said, spit on me again, I'ma knock your ass out. And You're I the mean one that shit. threatened me, boy. Hey. Boy. Hey, You threatened me, boy. That racist shit don't do shit to me. Oh, my nigga. I ain't being racist.
You
man.
are.
That's I ain't being racist.
You are.
Slur, my nigga. You're the one that was disrespectful to me. About your car. I don't give a fuck I'm about not a racist. Hey, I'm here with my brother. I didn't fucking touch you. I'm a grown ass man, nigga. Fuck off, Yo, punk. hey, do something. You're the one that said you want to hit me. I'll knock your ass out if I'm you waiting touch for
Oh,
me, you. bro. Knock me Touch out. me. Knock me out. Hey, touch me. Knock me out. Touch me. I'm gonna knock your You're ass a out of punk. here. That's what the fuck I thought, You're nigga. a punk. Get your weak ass in your car. I'm right here, dude. All right, touch me, Turn bro. the video off. Yeah, I ain't Turn turning the shit off. fucking video off.
Hey.
Punk. Can I get any closer to you? Hey, I'm touch in me. your fucking face. Touch me. I'm in your fucking touch face. me, I'ma knock your ass out. You're a punk. All you gotta do is touch me, bro. I ain't stupid. You're a punk. I ain't stupid. You're a fucking punk. Hey, I'm black, but I ain't stupid. You're you a feel me? punk. Hey, Yeah? What? Stop touching my car, fam. You fucking touched my car again, Hey. boy? Watch out, bro.
Watch your mouth.
I just touched you.
Watch
What are you
your
gonna do?
mouth.
You're a fucking punk. Watch out. Get the fuck
Hey,
off me, boy.
baby.
What's
Baby.
up? What's
What's
up?
up?
What's
Baby.
up? What What's you up? wanna do? What you wanna do? We'll see what the fuck you What you wanna do? You'll see. What's up? Show me something. All right, motherfucker. Show me something.
Baby.
Show me something, nigga.
Baby.
Show me something. Bitch ass nigga. Bitch ass nigga. What's up?
Baby.
What's up?
Baby.
Bitch.
Baby.
Bitch ass
Baby.
nigga. Don't touch me, my nigga. I told you
Baby.
that. I told you that. Don't touch me, bro. Back off. What's up? What's up? Back What's off. up? Fight, nigga. What's up? What the fuck?
Baby. Baby.
What's up?
Baby. Baby. Hey, chill the fuck out, cause it's on video.
He good. He good. Come on. What's up? I got you. I'm here. I got you. I'm here.
Stop. It's the fucking baby right here.
Just keep recording this shit up. I got you right here, boy. Hey, just keep. Hey, come out here. Yeah. Come out here. Hey, come out here. Come on, boy. Hey, come out here. It's on camera, my nigga. Don't touch me, bro. It's on camera. Not worrying about no gun, my nigga. You gonna have to kill me. Come on, boy. You gonna have to, nigga. Fuck wrong with you, pussy ass boy. Come on, boy. Hey, you gonna have to kill me. You gonna have to. You gonna have to kill me. I got it on camera, man. This white guy assaulted me on camera. That's why he leaving. He calling me a racist ass slurs and shit. Calling me a boy, a nigga, all that shit. Got me fucked up. Then he hit my car and shit with his door. You feel me? It's on camera.
Got with them on. What was you thinking? Can you shut up, please? Can you shut the fuck up, please? Can you shut the fuck up? I'm not doing nothing to you. Get the fuck out my face, Lizzie.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the brother Jamee Johnson, to the brother Terry Tillman, to the brother Adonte Washington, to all our people who have faced injustice. And at the end of the day, we can't be afraid to protect ourselves, to protect our family, our children. And they should be enough for us to want a change. And self-defense is the American way. And when we talk about self-defense, that's as American as anything else. I'm not telling you anything George Washington didn't tell America. Because sometimes people don't understand until they get a taste of their own medicine. And we need to be focused on building our own institutions, being in control of the curriculum in our schools, being in control of the jobs in our area, in control of our own economy, building institutions designed to protect us. But we have to understand that every time we've tried to build these institutions, they've attacked us. They call it terrorism. They call it anti-American. Today they call it black identity extremism. J. Edgar Hoover's main goal of the FBI was to keep us in our place. But every time we've built our own institutions, they have come to destroy it. And they're going to come again. But this time we have to be ready. And we have to protect it by any means necessary. And us not wanting to see our children harmed and having the best possible future they can have should be enough motivation for us to put aside our petty differences and get on code. We don't have any other choice. We're going to have to leave our beliefs at the door and get on code so that we can change our situation. Because at the end of the day, we are all we got. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.